Yes, Pete.
All right, everybody good and settled? Go ahead and get Slate in.
Scene one, take one, marker.
You ever think about if the NIL existed when you were playing?
Not really.
Oh, come on.
I loved my time there.
You're with the Broncos. They give you the ability to get traded to kind of wherever you want. Why not come home?
Besides the ownership, nobody wanted me here.
Aaron Hernandez, why is it so important to you to not say anything negative?
Why would it be important to me to? I don't think it's wise, and I don't think it's helpful.
What stands out most to you from the human trafficking stats?
When we talk about purchasing of live streaming, we're the worst in the world.
And that's live streaming rape.
Yes. We have to step up and stand up, and it's not going to go away if we act like it's not real.
A night to shine. What makes it your favorite event of the year?
My mom ran up to me and she grabbed me pretty intensely. And she said, my daughter, she'll never get married. She'll never have kids. But tonight she felt like a princess.
So how did the idea for the book come about?
This has really been inspired by so many of the heroes that we have gotten to serve. And if society would have first looked again, many of them wouldn't have been in that situation. If we would really look at people and we would really recognize their worth, it would renew our hope and we would be able to run with the confidence. You know, we are talking right now in one of our most isolated societies we've ever been in one of our loneliest societies we've most ever been in, where the suicide rate for young people is so high, yet we're somewhat connected over devices to people all over the place, but yet actually real personal, interpersonal communication and fellowship is so lacking, where we are comparing ourselves to other people's fake best days on Instagram and all these other devices. And the heart of Look Again is to truly challenge people first to themselves, that I'm not what the world labels or says I am, but then it's also when I truly recognize who and whose I am, it changes then my eyes to how I see other people. Maybe now I won't just walk by them the same. Maybe I won't look past them the same. Maybe I'll really stop to see not just what they can do for me, but who they truly are and what I can do for them. And that might change my actions for them, my kindness towards them, and then ultimately I think that it changes everything.
Well said.
Thanks, brother.
So I wanted to start off by talking about the wife, actually. Correct me if I'm
Perfect,
wrong.
we get to talk about one of my favorite things.
Well, you knew after your first conversation with her that you wanted to marry her.
Yeah, I had a really good feeling like that she's the one, and thankfully she had a feeling like that too. That first phone call that was just supposed to be a 5-minute phone call, just with more information about kind of Night to Shine and the way we serve people with special needs and some of those things, because her sister was special needs. And then it lasted 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 6 seconds.
Now, did you know going into it you had interest in her, or?
Of course.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so give a little of the backstory there.
So I had gotten to see her talk about her sister with special needs, and so we were, for the first time, serving in South Africa individuals with special needs for Night to Shine. And then I saw that and I said, well, you know, we sent her an invitation so we could serve her family. And then she was like, well, hey, this looks awesome, but I need to look into this a little bit more, like being a protective big sister. And she was like, so we emailed back and forth a few times, and you know, hoping to be able to serve her family and her sister, but at the same time, you know, had some ulterior motives of like, she seems awesome. And so we emailed back and forth, and she's like, hey, can we set up a quick phone call so I can learn more? And that phone call, and I think we both afterwards were like, I think we're probably gonna get married. And I would not have been that type of person.
And then was the first date right after that?
The first date was a little while after because...
Like Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yes, come on, you did some research. I like it. That's right. Because she was traveling all over. I think that year she had 22 international trips as Miss Universe, so she was like all over the place. And I was playing minor league baseball, so I was all over the place. And then she was actually not far from there. I was finishing a baseball game, and so that's where we met. And that was right before she went on a 7-week, 7-country trip. And I was like, oh man, we really need to have a date, because I think when she leaves on this trip, she's gonna go and she's gonna get like swept off her feet by like the Prince of Wales or something, I was
Well,
like,
because when you find somebody you're interested in, that's
yeah,
like
I
all
was
you
like,
can, right?
Yeah, so we had
Right.
to, but we've never actually met in person.
Yeah.
And so we finally met, and then it was
The
pretty
rest
special.
is history. How did the long distance work?
FaceTime's helpful. And when you're playing minor league baseball, there's a lot of time on buses. So a lot. And so it was honestly not that much in person for most of our dating phase, and I'm so grateful for FaceTimes because that really helped. And she was all over the country, all over the world. But honestly, I feel like part of that actually was helpful because it gave us more time to really like communicate and talk about passions and cares and hopes and dreams and like really important stuff that sometimes when you're in person, you just talk about where's the next place you want to eat type thing. And that let us get in some good conversations. And then in between all her trips and baseball, then we would try to have some dates here or there. But then when baseball season ended and got more into like TV stuff, then we were able to spend a little bit more time together. But it was still a lot of time for both of us on the road.
What's this I hear about microphones in haystacks during a proposal?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted the proposal to be as meaningful and sincere and thoughtful as I could. So for the proposal, we just had so many surprises, and when I was thinking she was catching on, then we'd go back and create another lie to throw her off.
Okay, wait, explain that.
So we had set it up for a long time that the Tebow family always has Christmas dinner at my parents' house, and it's a really nice deal. We don't. But that was to be able to get her dressed up over at my parents' house, like we call it the farm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the family house is where
I grew up, yes.
Because you moved from Sherry
Lane.
Sherry
That's
Lane,
right.
when you were a kid.
Yeah, technically we were there. We moved to the Philippines for 5 years, then we moved back, and then we got a piece of property on the west side of Jacksonville. 44 acres, where it was awesome for boys to just...
Or a heck of a place to grow up.
It was awesome. And so for the proposal, I want to do something meaningful in a meaningful place, and that pond out there is very meaningful. It's many days I sat out there and thought and prayed and buried our 2 dogs. It's just very meaningful. So we had created an arch, and we had a really bench, and we had flowers out there and all these surprises. And the minute I feel like she's catching on, I would like try to create another lie. And so it was like, as we're leading up to it, we had Christmas with our family at our house over here, and so we all did that. But then we were getting ready to go drive to my parents' house for Christmas dinner. And so we made up this big lie that it's a really fancy, big deal, because she wanted a couple things she wanted to have done for their proposal is she wanted someone to capture it and videos and photography, and she wanted her nails done. And so I was like, okay. So my sisters were like, yeah, we're getting our nails done, everything. So I got her dressed up, got her nails done, everything. And then
how are your nerves?
There was a lot of adrenaline, a lot of dopamine going for sure. Especially because I had to keep all of these lies in order. And so then I was thinking she was catching on to it, and I told her we had another surprise, that I got my dad a truck for Christmas. And so I had a friend here who has a dealership drop off a truck with the big bow on it. And I was like, okay, we're gonna ride in this over to mom and dad's and I'm gonna give them the truck. Because I thought, she's gonna think, if you're giving your dad a truck for Christmas, then you're really making it about your dad. It wouldn't be about me. So I did that just to throw her off. So we got in the truck, but meanwhile, what she didn't know is I already had all these people, her best friends and her family all flew in from South Africa. And she's like, why aren't we my mom, I can't get her on text, my dad, because they were flying 16 hours over here. And so we drove over to the house, and before we went in, I said, hey, I have something out here I want you to see. We walked out there, and I wanted her to know this is kind of what's happening. And so she sees the flowers, she's getting emotional, we're walking closer, and then I stopped and I proposed to her, and she said yes, and then I said, hey.
It touches you now, even.
Oh yeah, and I said, hey, let's play our favorite. It's just a special memory, it's the best. And I said, hey, let's play one of our favorite songs. It's a song by Matthew Mole called The Wedding Song. It's one of her favorite artists from South Africa. We play it, and then as we're playing it, he walks around from one of the hay bales, and then he's playing it acoustically, and she's like, what? And meanwhile, the whole time we had different cameras and mics and the hay bales that were around there, so they could hear what we were saying and they could hear the cues. So I gave a cue and I turned her around as we're dancing to the song, and then she turns back around and her parents are there from South Africa, and she's shocked. And then my parents are there, and then her 4 of her best friends were there, and so it was just a night of full surprises. And she's like, wait, so are you really giving your dad the truck? And I'm like, no. And so she goes up to my dad and she's like, you know, I'm sorry you're not getting a truck, but you're getting a daughter. And that was one of my favorite lines of the night.
That's a lot of coordination that
it was a lot.
It
was very aggressive.
Yeah. And she didn't know?
She had no idea.
Okay. Good for you.
I also gave her a ring earlier that day to throw her off as well. But it was an engagement ring.
Right.
It was just a nice ring for Christmas, but because I thought, she's gonna think if she gets a ring, she's not getting the ring.
Oh, you were all in. Oh, and then you get married, and then COVID hits right after, which probably had to blow up whatever early, marriage plans existed.
So when we were, we go on our honeymoon, and there are even a few people there in the Maldives that are mentioning this thing called coronavirus. And we're like, we don't pay much attention to it. And then we fly night to shine a bunch of places, and we come back here, and I go to spring training for baseball, and they shut it down. And then we come back here, and it was a big adjustment when kind of your honeymoon period in time is in the middle of a pandemic. And so that was a big adjustment, and it definitely gave us more time to communicate early on.
And presumably a move happened at some point then from other end of the world to Jacksonville. And
And thankfully a lot of that was done right beforehand. We got married January 2020, and so a lot of that got done before kind of that end of February, March period. So I'm glad we got that done beforehand.
Okay, so from what I understand, when you were growing up, your dad kind of had a tight grip on the social life, right?
Oh, yeah.
How did that impact things for you?
Well, I think one of the great things that we had was from a very early age, my parents took us with us to a bunch of places, so we got to communicate a lot, but a lot of it was also to adults. Growing up for the first 5 years overseas, but then coming back and, going with my 4 older siblings who are 3, 6, 9, and 12 years, and then my mom and dad, it really forces you to have to learn how to talk to adults. And I think that was something that was really helpful in a lot of areas.
What about when it came to dating, though?
What about it?
Oh, I mean, it probably hampered that, right?
Well, I think that it's probably different with all of the siblings.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was different for every relationship. And I think one of the things that my parents always just did a great job of was just trying to always learn and grow. And they're never the same parent yesterday as they were today. And be able to watch that, although at the same time they were always as loving and kind and thoughtful, but just trying to always do what was best for us, and they always did that. And
your sister Katie kind of served as like a second mom.
Oh yeah, she got a hernia from, I think it was a double hernia because she was carrying me around so much when I was a baby. So
really?
Yeah. But so she kind of served as a second mom. Christy would also say, my oldest sister, they were just amazing big siblings to me that were 9 and 12 years older. And so it wasn't just like a brother-sister relationship. It was also like a role model. Like, I want to make them proud. I remember a very pivotal moment for me was we went to church one week. The whole family was back together. I can't remember if I was in like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And we were all getting ready to go out to lunch with some other families. And I said something to some of their friends that was just, I can't remember. It was arrogant and stupid. And they didn't say anything. They just looked at me. And it was so disappointed. And I was like, it was just one of the worst moments. And I was like, I'm gonna do everything I can to never disappoint you.
You even recognized that in the moment?
Oh yeah, it was debilitating. And it was super humbling. And that's what I mean, that it wasn't just brothers, sisters. Like, I wanted to please them. I wanted them to be proud of me. And when that was the opposite, it was like a dagger. And sometimes good things can come from disappointment. And that was something I really felt like inspired me to never want to have them say, oh, I'm ashamed of Timmy.
Is everybody close by today?
No, they're all over.
Oh, are they?
They've been all over the world. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Could you see a time when everybody's back living
I would love
in the
it.
area?
I think it's so hard with the just extended family now, and more and more extended family, and people are having more and more kids. There's just so much, so it makes it all hard to get in the same place. But when we can, gosh, it becomes really, really special.
How many kids do you want?
I don't know. I would, and you say the perfect world, I'd love to have a big family, but obviously Timmy has a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I am so blessed and incredibly thankful for this incredible daughter that we have been so fortunate to have for the last 8.5 weeks. And it's surreal and life-changing. And if we get the blessing of having more, then that would be awesome. So.
Okay, what's been the biggest adjustment there?
You know, people say a lot, they say, did you ever know you could love something so much? And I don't think that's been the biggest adjustment. I think from the time that I was right here and Demi surprised me when I got home with the news, I didn't need to know if she was a boy or a girl or what her face looked like. I instantly knew that I loved this little baby. But then I think once she was here with us, it was like the level of responsibility went up to where the feeling like I was like, okay, when we walk in, that's it. All these corners, we got to fix them on the steps. Like, so you're looking at every place she could fall or bump a knee or...
Fun place to baby-proof.
It's not a fun place to baby-proof. And so I think that level of responsibility, like I remember driving home and I was 10 and 2 like crazy, and Timmy's like, what? Like, why are you driving so slow? And just that level of responsibility, I think that's the thing that is really, that I've noticed is really amped up.
Have you guys figured out a schedule yet?
I think the schedule is constantly changing. Yeah.
Fun times.
They honestly, they've been some of the best times, some of our most enjoyable times, I would say, of our life. Like,
wait, what do you mean? I have a 5-week-old that's my first, and
congratulations.
They eat, they sleep, they poop, and repeat right now.
But is this, you're carrying this baby that can do nothing for you, but you just,
which
your
is
heart's
crazy.
Pounding out of your chest, and you're like, but I would do anything and everything for them. And to watch Daphne smile, or it's just been the best. And I kind of like it because she also likes my voice too.
Oh, there you go.
Even when I'm not with Demi and Daphne and we'll call on FaceTime, I'll talk to her and she'll smile at my voice. And
well, and
really
because
sweet.
the whole time she was pregnant, she could hear your
She
voice,
could hear,
right.
and a lot of nights I would talk to her in the womb, and we would read scripture and pray and do so many things, and it was really special right after the delivery, and the doctor puts Daphne on Demi's chest for skin-to-skin time. She's crying a little bit, and I go around there and I just start to sing to her. You have some skills from what I understand. It's horrible.
Wait, what about these?
It's horrible.
What about these?
It is the worst.
What about these summer musicals back in the day?
Yes, and it was terrible. My voice was awful. There's pretty much only 2 people I think I've ever heard that might have a worse voice than me. One is my dad, and the other is my wife.
Oh,
but it's the cutest thing.
Appreciates that.
Oh, she would tell you that 100%.
So what are you saying?
I just kind of make up little lullabies and sing them to her, and so I started singing to her, and she just stopped crying and like looked over, like, I've heard that voice. I knew that voice has been around. It was really, really sweet moment.
Tell about this colorblind gender reveal.
That was literally right here. So we're doing our gender reveal a few months ago, and Demi had it all set up, and she thought through it, and she's got this beautiful canvas, and she thinks, okay, well, we're gonna be blindfolded, and some of our team knows whether it's a boy or a girl, and they hand us the paint, and so we're painting onto this canvas, and they say, okay, you guys are done, and here you go, we're gonna give you we're gonna take the paintbrush, and we're gonna close your eyes, we're gonna take off the blindfold, and all right, when we say open your eyes and find out if your first child's a boy or a girl. And so they're like, okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, open your eyes. And I opened my eyes, but what Demi and the team forgot to remember is that I'm colorblind. And I thought it was going to be obvious, though. I thought it was going to be like a bright blue or like a bright pink, like you see for most gender reveals. But my wife, in her awesome creativity, decided to pick like a mauve pink. I don't know what mauve pink is, but to me, when I opened my eyes, it just looked brown. And so I'm like, yay! But I'm thinking, is brown a boy or is brown a girl? It's like that, like lightish brown. And so I'm like, oh no. And she's like, yay, it's a girl. And I'm like, yay, it's a girl, because I don't want to ruin the moment for her. And it was really funny. And so after we finished in the celebration, I went over and I said, hey, I had no idea, right? And she's like, what? And I was like, babe, I'm colorblind. And she's like, you couldn't tell? And I was like, no, not until you said it's a girl. So
How colorblind are you?
I actually didn't even know I was colorblind until I was playing for the Eagles, and we were going through testing one day, and the doctor's like, "So, Timmy, how long you been colorblind?" And I'm like, "How long have I been what?" And he's like, "Oh, you didn't know?" And I was like, "No, what, that I'm colorblind?" He's like, "Oh, yeah." And that was the first time I found out.
And
that was
how
like in
did he-
2015.
How did he?
We were just
determine
going
it?
through all their testings
Okay.
of, they go through hearing, sight, eyes, like, all the ones where you like flip your eyes. But, the Eagles would do with Coach Kelly a lot of extensive testing on all sorts of different things, which I really loved and thought was really cool. But then one of the days when we were doing it, they were like, "You're colorblind." And I'm like, because how do you know you're colorblind until someone tells you? You just see it the way you see it.
Right.
And so it was actually a big shock to me.
Well, for being colorblind, you did good designing the
Grandma didn't do a thing.
Well, you still have to look at the stuff. I mean, you did something. All right, so you have one kid, one more. Would you homeschool the kids?
I think that we want to do whatever is best. If that means homeschooling, we're totally open to it.
What's your gut tell you?
I think that there's different types of education that fit different families better. I think for some areas in some schools, public schools can be great. I think private schools, I think the university models can be great. I think homeschooling can be great. There's so many different models because I think the structure for so many families is a little different. And for us, we were so fortunate to be able to have a dad that when he was there during school days, he could pour into us with so much Greek and Hebrew and all sorts of other things. But then Mom
He was
really,
traveling all over the world.
He's traveling
during your
also
upbringing.
all over the world, and so. But Mom was able to really be a good teacher and patient, and also for me with dyslexia, that really was a blessing when I finally got diagnosed with it and understood how I learned. And but Mom was equipped and able to handle it. So I think that homeschooling can be really, really special for certain families, but it can. But it's not also right for every family.
What was your parents' reasoning for homeschooling you and your siblings?
It's a good question. I think probably one of the first things that they would say is because they wanted to make the things that were most important. And that would be relationship with God, relationship with each other, things that are going to last for eternity, the focus first. And also, they're big believers in education and focusing on that. But if you know all of these grammar words and you can write essays and you can crush calculus, but you don't love God and love people, what's it for?
Your mom had a bit of a tough go initially, like suppliers wouldn't provide or sell materials.
Oh, back in the day, it used to be really hard to be homeschooled. There was such a stigma to it. I even know that when I was growing up, so many people would criticize them or criticize us or teams I would play on, and you would have to hear much chirping and, there's the weird homeschoolers type.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't even unique early on.
I gathered from reading your first book that it seemed like there were elements of it that were hard, that was hard for you. Like you questioned if you were missing out on certain friendships.
Totally.
How so?
Oh, I think there's a balance, right? I think it's like, I know what I love what I'm doing, but maybe am I missing out on something, right? You have that fear of it, that FOMO, you know, like that's our whole family, we get FOMO. If like the whole family's together, we're like, dang it, I'm missing out, I want to be with everybody. And I just think it's that in that same way, you think, well, what am I missing out on? What do I not know? What have I not experienced, And so there's that.
How did your parents explain it to you at the time?
I don't know that they probably did. I think,
That's just how it was.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I also, it's not like I was ever ungrateful. I loved it. I was so grateful. I loved my homeschooling experience. But it doesn't mean even when you love something, you still, no, when you do one thing, it usually means you're sacrificing and giving up something else. And I was involved in massive youth groups. We were involved in mission trips every summer. We were involved in science fairs and history fairs. We were involved in year-round sports for so much. So we were still around a whole lot of people. It wasn't kind of like, oh, they're homeschooling and you're like socially awkward and isolated and, maybe smart, but can't talk,
Well, but it can be for some, probably. It's a credit to your parents
I think
for
it's
creating
every
those
family's
opportunities
different,
for you.
right?
Yeah.
What do you emphasize and what are you making a part of? I think one of the things that we did that was so special, and I'm so grateful, is we got to make learning about life a priority and the reality of the world. Like, I can't tell you how many countries I was in before I was 5. And getting to see the world and not just kind of have a bubble over you, but being told about the world. We got to see it and experience so many cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities and different places around the world that really helped. And then my parents would explain more and share more and this is why we live here and this is what we're doing. And then you fall in love with the people, different countries around the world, and we got to experience so much of that, and I felt like that was so much more of a unique but special education than just like, hey, this is what this book says.
Right, and I believe those opportunities were created in part because of your dad's work.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But you can, you can be the best student ever and never have the opportunity to experience any of that, and that's kind of some of the richest learning you can get.
Yeah, I think really being able to experience the world, and then also the blessings that we have in the States here. And you talk about gratitude that shifts and perspective that shifts. And it's so easy to complain or think that we have things hard. And then Dad's like, hey, come on. I'm going to go show you what hard looks like.
Right. It quiets the complaints about not getting the newest pair of sneakers.
Yeah.
Real
So
quick.
on my dad's mission trips, big part because of this, there was really only one rule: no complaining. And still to this day, one of the people that I've heard the least amount of complaining in just anybody that I really know is my dad.
Okay, give some color to that, if you
Well,
don't
it's
mind.
so easy for us to complain, to say what we don't have, to look at it negative. And it's, in my opinion, it is almost impossible to be grateful and bitter at the same time. You don't get to have both. You got to pick or choose, right? So am I going to fight to have the perspective of being grateful and let go of the bitterness or the frustration or the disappointments? And it's really hard to have both of these coincide at the same time. And so one of the reasons that Dad would have this motto on all the trips of no complaining is because, man, when we're sitting there complaining, it also limits our ability to be grateful, limits our willingness to be grateful and get rid of all those disappointments, because we will always have them. I'm not saying those things aren't real, but even the disappointments, we have so much to be grateful for. And I think he was just really making a statement on, we're not going to complain, because look at everything that we have to be grateful for.
So in 1985, your parents moved to the Philippines for your dad's work. I believe they opened up ministry there. And while there, your mom contracts dysentery.
Yeah, amoeba dysentery.
Falls into a coma.
Yeah.
Give a little background on what was going on with her then.
So My dad was out preaching one night and felt it on his heart, just really agonizing over so many of the babies that weren't being given a chance around the world, and really felt like he was supposed to have another baby, and came back, saw my mom. They already had 4 at the time, and he was like, I really felt like we're supposed to have another baby, like God's calling us to have. And she's like, well, I don't know, I don't know if God's calling me to have another baby, right? Like, and so then not long after, she really felt compelled to have another baby as well. And so not long after that, she became pregnant. At least they thought she was pregnant, but then they thought that it was just a massive fetal tissue, a tumor. And so actually my first nickname was Timmy the Tumor. So I have that going for me.
That's pretty creative.
My siblings, yeah. I don't know if it's that creative. And so my siblings like throwing that one on me. And then after that, I can't remember every period of it, but my mom had amoeba dysentery, and she fell into a coma. And then when the doctor who had helped deliver thousands and thousands of babies, helped my mom deliver this baby, he told my mom, he said, "This is the greatest miracle I've ever seen in my life, because I don't know how your baby's still alive. The placenta only has a tiny attachment, so I don't know how your baby has enough nutrients to survive."
They were concerned that she could have died, right?
Yeah, and I'm just so grateful that my mom trusted God and gave me a chance when a lot of the doctors were telling her to get rid of me.
What did she tell you about that?
Just that how much she loved me, and told me that every single day. And I kind of mean that. Like most days of my life, my parents would tell me, "Hey, we want you to know God spared you for a reason, and God wants to use you, and He loves you like crazy." And just, do you know what happens when you hear that over and over and over again? You start to believe it.
How did knowing that story impact your view of the pro-life, pro-choice conversation?
Well, I just think that, one, such a gratitude and love for my mom to give me my chance to see her heart and hear my dad tell a story, my siblings tell the story from their perspective, and praying for me that I would make it, and the love and the support, and then just studying the truth of how every life is so loved and so valuable, infinitely valuable in my opinion. And we have to treat every life of every place, of everywhere, with that infinite value and worth.
What do you do in the cases where there's a medical issue or, some sort of criminal activity connected to the pregnancy?
Well, I think that we have to first love well. So many people, when they talk about this, it's just pro-unborn, but I believe the pro-life movement needs to be pro-life all the time, everyone, no matter where, no matter what, all the time. Because I believe that the God that we serve loves life and came to give us life and life abundantly, and we need to be willing to stand and truly and fight for. And the way that we fight is with faith, hope, and love. It's with kindness. It is with truth, but it's also in love. And we need to do that all of the time. And there can be some really, really hard circumstances, and it needs to be met with kindness, compassion, and love, and mixed in all of those needs to be truth. It's not just we're going to pick and choose one. It needs to be all.
Do you think legislation should be changed, nationwide to align with that?
I believe that we should stand for life, and every life I believe is fearfully and wonderfully made, is one of one, is created in love, by love, and for love, was made on purpose and for a purpose. And when you believe all of those biblical truths, like I would believe them about you, I would believe them about every single person here. Therefore, if I believe that you have infinite value and worth, that God, when created you in love, by love, and for love, when I see you that way, what should I do? I should value you. It's part of the heart of Look Again. The book that I just finished writing is that we would look again, because how many times in my life have I looked and I haven't seen something the way that it was, or I haven't seen something the way that I should. And I think our heart as a society should be to fight to see people with a love and a value. I'll tell you a story to illustrate this. A few years ago, we were at a night to shine, and this was in the middle of COVID, so we had something called shine-throughs where they could stay in their car but still drive through a red carpet, and all people were cheering on the outside, and it was just so special. And we were in Arizona for this one, and there was this Corvette that was coming around very slowly, and all these people are cheering from the outside, and there's a young girl in the back seat standing up with pom-poms, and she's cheering, and she's just going crazy, and she's absorbing it, and it's pulling through, and I'm just looking at her face and the joy, because she's being celebrated and loved and valued and treated as the queen. And then it pulls by, and I'm just already emotional watching this. And as the Corvette pulls by, I see on the back, it says, royalty on board. And I thought, man, that's it. I don't know how to explain it, but that's it. And so many times our society has not treated her like there was royalty on board.
You were quoted some point during the latter portion of your playing days as saying, I've never found my identity in who I was as a football player. I found my identity in who I am in Christ. And when you find your identity as a Christian, then regardless of your status or your fame or your popularity or your position, that never changes. So the roller coaster that the world has always looked at my life and viewed, I'm very thankful that I didn't have to live it.
Yeah, I would probably tweak that and say, I believe that to be part of what I was pursuing, but I also believe I would miss the mark on that too many times too. Like, that's the truth.
Because you're human.
But I try to do that, but I have too many times. I know it's not a satisfying identity, but I've still placed it there so many times anyways. I would say I've missed the mark on that a whole lot more than I would like to admit.
But good for you for acknowledging it and recognizing that, because it's funny, I'm reading that, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, still so many times, even after you know it, I still lose sight of it.
Why?
So I have a portrait in that room, because that's our TV room where I'll go in and we'll watch, for the most part, a lot of games, right? Do you know how easy it is for me to go in there, watch a game, and lose perspective?
In losing perspective to you
Just
means
on
what?
Just on what really matters. Lose perspective on how I'm supposed to see the world, how I'm supposed to see people.
And how does that come out in you when you're in those moments?
It's easy. You could watch Florida lose last weekend, and you can be, so frustrated and lose perspective. You can get caught up in just so many things that just don't matter. But why I tell that story is because there's a portrait right when you walk in, and you have to see it when you walk in, and you have to see it when you walk out. And I put it there for a reason, because I know that I have a tendency to lose perspective on things that just don't matter. It doesn't mean that we can't care about them. It just means when they're not in their proper position, then I'm out of whack. And it's a portrait of a young boy named Fransky. Fransky is from Haiti, and to make a long story short, that Fransky was abandoned as a baby with special needs and a whole bunch of issues that he had to fight. And Fransky was taken into the care of our partners, and many days when I would be in Haiti, I would get to carry Fransky, and Fransky never had the ability to speak and never had the ability to walk, but several years ago, Fransky got sick.
Because we're in rainy Jacksonville right now.
Yeah, and we had to rush him to a medical clinic that wouldn't take him because they viewed him as cursed and insignificant, because they believed because he was born with special needs. And so to make a long story short, rushed him to a hospital, another hospital, another hospital. They wouldn't take him, they wouldn't take him, they wouldn't take him. And then by the time they got him into a hospital that would admit him, within a few minutes, he ended up passing away. And when I walk in and out of there, I need to see that portrait of Fransky because it reminds me of the things that are more important. And it's a portrait of Fransky wearing a crown, smiling, because when I would carry him around, even though he couldn't talk, every room that you'd bring him in, that you'd carry him in, he would light up the room with his smile. And so I wanted to see him the way I'm supposed to see him, as royalty with the crown, not as the way that too many people that saw him as insignificant or less than and viewed him as cursed. And we think, well, we don't actually view people like that. Well, maybe not all the time, but we don't view people with worth and value. We look by them, we look past them, we look around them. Why? Most of the time because we think they're not important enough to stop for.
How did the idea for the foundation come about?
I was 15 years old and I met a boy in the jungles of the Philippines who was born with his feet on backwards, and he was treated as less than, insignificant, and cursed. But I knew he wasn't less than to God, and I knew that God was pricking my heart saying, yeah, Timmy, but what are you gonna do about it? Not what do you just feel about it, what are you gonna do about it? And that was when I was 15. I didn't know, I couldn't have verbalized it like that. I didn't know what this meant. I just knew this is what I have as such an
You knew you wanted to do something.
I knew I had to do something for those that were at least the last of lost, treated as less than. And all the boys and girls like him. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't even really know how to articulate it. I still have my testimony coming back where I'm first telling that story and I'm trying to find the words that was ripping at my heart. And I didn't know what it looked like. How do I go live that out? I don't know. And so that was in my last few years of high school and then into college, and most of those years still getting to go back to a lot of those different islands and villages. But then to get to your question about the student government run organizations and stuff, we thought, man, we have to be able to find a way to do something to make a difference. And back then it was a little bit different with the rules in NCAA, and so we appealed to them and asked them if we could have like a charity event, and after a few times they give us a yes. We had a powder puff football tournament. I think the first year we raised maybe like $15,000 for orphans in several countries, and then the last year, going in my senior year, we asked to do it on a bigger stage and get all the football players involved and all sorts of things. And I said no and no and no, and we appealed and appealed and appealed, and eventually we won. And then we had a whole week of charity events where we had powder puff football. Every female organization would sign up, and so there was all the sororities and then other organizations, and then they would draft football players as their coaches. And then we had
fun.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome. And then we had ice cream parties in the hospital with all the kids. We took all the kids to Disney World, loaded up buses and took them there to be able to serve them at Disney. We ultimately had the Powder Puff football tournament that we ended up having thousands and thousands of people buy tickets to. And that was an awesome tournament that ended up having the championship game in the swamp with 60,000 people before we played the orange and blue game. And ultimately, through all of that, and then being able to use some of our the different gear that we wore for games, jerseys and stuff like that, to be able to sell it as well for the orphans. We were able, the NCAA allowed us to do that, and we raised over $500,000 in a week for orphanages, and so it was really special.
How much money do you think you've raised today?
Oh, I don't know. That would be,
Okay, if you had to guess.
hard. I have no idea. That would be too hard to guess. But we're so grateful for all the people that have partnered to.
Hey, wait, your dad told you growing up you're allowed to brag about your achievements if somebody asks. It's only when
Not really in
somebody
that
doesn't
same way.
ask.
Not in that same
I mean,
way.
that's, if there's ever something to brag about, that's a pretty good one.
But it's it's not bragging on anything that we've done, just what we get to be a part of, and who we brag on is the special lives that we get to serve that are many of the greatest heroes that I've ever met in my life.
What do you do each year with your Heisman Trophy?
We auction it off for different ministries, and we've never auctioned it off for Tim Tebow Foundation. We've auctioned it off for a lot of other friends' ministries.
What do you think that's brought in?
It's brought in a good amount. I don't know the exact number, but well over $1 million.
How about your long-term goals with your foundation?
To get to as many hurting boys and girls and women and those that are suffering and those that have been abandoned or abused or exploited or trafficked or viewed as less than, as many as we can possibly get for as long as we possibly can. And Lord willing, it'll still be serving a lot of people long after I'm gone.
The Cure Hospital in the Philippines. Tell a little bit about that.
It's a very near and dear place to my heart because we're able to care for many of the boys and girls that were just like that boy that I met when I was 15 years old, and many of them from all over the country get carried in or wheeled in, rolled in, and they get to walk out. And it's not just the surgery that changes their life. It's also the way that people see them and treat them and the love that they experience. Because one of the things in the States that we don't always get to see and understand is what happens in a lot of honor shame cultures when they view you with the stigma, or they view you with the disability, or they view you as you're less than, you're insignificant. And we'd hear just more kind of ignore certain people or walk around them, but too many countries still view people as truly less than. And for so many of those lives that have been viewed that way, but then to be operated on and cared for and loved, not only changes their life, but their family's life, but then also so many times the way they're viewed afterwards. And it's just why it's one of my favorite places in all of the earth.
A night to shine. I think this past year there were something like 820 of them.
Yeah, something like that. 828, 822, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
822. There you go. What makes it your favorite event of the year?
We're getting ready for our 5th year anniversary of the foundation. And our president at the time came to me and they said, Timmy, what about for our 5-year anniversary, since we serve people with special needs in several countries around the world, what if we did a prom night feel for all of the these kings and queens, and we treated them as kings and queens. What if we did something like that? Because we knew of 2 churches that did a Jesus prom event, and we thought, man, that was really cool. He said, so what if our 5-year anniversary we did something? I said, man, that sounds awesome. He said, okay, where do you want to host it? Like Florida, New York, Texas, California, Philippines, Mexico, where would you want to? And I said, I think we need to do it everywhere. And he's like, no, for real, what are you talking about? And I said, I think we need to do it everywhere for every single boy or girl, man or woman that hasn't been celebrated and loved and treasured. We need to try to do it for all of them. He wasn't super happy with me. But we pitched the idea to our board and our very, very small staff at the time. And we prayed about it and thought, how could we do this? And so we came up with, like, I think it was maybe a 70-page manual that first year of all of the things. And we thought, man, this is who we need to partner with, is churches, because we want the best night of a boy, girl, man, or woman, hopefully their year or their life, to be with the church. And that first year, I believe we were in 44 locations in 26 states and 3 countries 11 years ago. And then we flew to North Carolina for the first one. And I said, hey, before we walk up, let's stand outside. I want to watch for a little bit before I get up close to everyone. And I saw some of the boys and girls going down the red carpet. And got to just see the joy in them from afar. And I thought it's something that's pretty special.
What about it still chokes you up?
A lot, but it's watching the people that love the kings and queens light up when their boys and girls light up. And then we flew from North Carolina to South Carolina. And before I walked in the arena that it was in, a mom ran up to me and she grabbed me pretty intensely. And she said, my daughter, she'll never get married. She'll never have kids. But tonight she felt like a princess.
There was a funny moment with the Pope not too long ago, right?
I can't believe I'm telling this story. This is unreal. So my wife's showing the Pope videos and translating to see, the boys and girls and men and women, the celebrations, and then we're talking about that. And then one of our team members, who is just awesome, she is introduced to the Pope, and she a lot of times will say, we love and we're honored to fight for individuals with special needs. But it doesn't come out that way. She looks at the Pope and says, yeah, we fight people with special needs. I was like, what? And so you could see the Pope's translator is like, do you want me to tell him that? Like, is this a real story? Like, you want me to? And then I was like, no, that's it. It didn't come out the right way. And she's amazing. So we still laugh at that, and we'll never let her live it down.
So you have used this Night to Shine event, though, as kind of a launching off point for leaning in more in a particular region, like take Guatemala, and you started off with one, and now you have, I think, 6 schools.
Yeah,
there.
It's really
Explain
helped.
that.
Well, it's really been such a catalyst for us in so many areas that Night to Shine's opened the door in a country and built relationships and also built kindness. And so where a lot of people would have opened the door to say, hey, the more that you could be here, we'd love it. The more that you could open doors for you. It's really been life-changing and door-opening, and just things that we could have never possibly imagined.
We were at your office and we saw, the amount of staff between foundation and, your company. I think it's easy to listen to somebody talk about it in general terms, but just give some color, if you don't mind, to the scale of what you're doing.
Well, it's our calling and it's our passion, and it's what we wake up and think first and foremost every day. How can we care for the MVP, the most vulnerable people? And today we've been able to serve in just over 110 countries around the world from inception, and we're trying to get it to as many hurting in as many ways, and have as many good strategies and logistics and team members and as we possibly can to fight for those that can't fight for themselves. So when I first came up with the mission statement, I was just thinking about that boy that I met when I was 15 years old, and I just graduated from Florida, and I thought, what does he need? What does every boy or girl like him need? And then I thought that our mission statement is to bring faith, hope, and love to those needing a brighter day in their darkest hour of need. So what we wake up every day is, how can we best fight back against the evil in the darkest places and make as big of a dent in it as possible, against those that are being treated as less than insignificant, cursed, or devalued, exploited, or trafficked. Like, those are our people, and that's who we try to show up for every day.
I want to ask about human trafficking, and then afterwards get into, move on from here and get into athletics and, some of your career that just kind of helped in allowing you to create positive change. But explain your wife's role in getting you involved in this.
My wife's role in getting me involved in which
human trafficking.
Well, we had been fighting in the space for a little while before me and Demi had ever met. But what was special is when we connected, that a few of the things that were really near and dear to my heart was, caring for those with special needs and those that are being trafficked or exploited, was also near and dear to her heart because of her sister with severe special needs. And she got held at gunpoint by several men in a very scary moment, and thankfully she was able to get away. But that led her to a fear that led to a wanting to learn, to fight, to help protect the vulnerable. And so it was two areas that she really cared a lot about. And so when we got together, it was two of the areas that we spent the most time talking about.
What stands out most to you from the human trafficking stats?
It would be that we think it happens over there, meaning over in another city, in another state, in another country. But that's not true. It's happening here. It's happening in our neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in everybody's neighborhood. And it's happening right under our noses. When we talk about like the distribution of CSAM, we're third worst in the world. When we talk about purchasing of live streaming, we're the worst in the world.
And that's live streaming rape.
Yes. Yeah. If we talk about like the red dot map, that just for a screenshot of the month of April, that were just under 112,000 IP addresses that were seen downloading, distributing child rape images under the age of 12. Like, that's a screenshot of the evil that's taking place.
How do you combat it?
Every day, with partnerships, with strategy, with care, with legislation, with fighting on as many battlefronts, with caring for as many survivors, with rallying as many people in any and every area that we can. We have to step up and stand up, and it's not going to go away if we act like it's not real. We have to be able to look at it, strategize, create a strategy, and then step forward and fight against it, because in my opinion, it's one of the worst evils in the world today.
What do you think has to be done to actually get as close as possible to ridding the problem from existence?
I don't. I try not to say anything like, I think we can end it, because I don't know that we can. It's been a problem for a really long time, the abuse and the exploitation of each other. But I do believe wholeheartedly that we can put a massive dent in it. And I think there's a few things that are really important to putting a dent in it. One is working together. It's one of our non-negotiables, that there's power when we come together, that we would actually care more about the mission than we do about the credit, and that we would put down all of the things that stand in the way, that we would rally, that we would partner together, that this can't be just a this organization or this organization or this three-letter organization or law enforcement. It has to be, it's one of the fastest growing businesses, it's one of the worst evils in the world. It is happening at an incredible rate. One of the things that is most disturbing, I wouldn't say that. One of the disappointing things to me in all of it is, even sometimes when we talk about it and we share, do you know how many times people have said to me, "Don't tell me, I don't want to know." And it hurts, because if we can't talk about it, how could we even be on the same team to fight against it? The enemy wins when this stays in the dark. When it comes to the light and we talk and we rally and we create armies and teams, and I don't mean like an army, I mean all of us working together as an army of people that want to stand for good, that want to stand for faith, hope, and love, that want to stand for the value of every single person on every single day and every single place. If we do that, I believe we can put a dent in it.
And this is billions of dollars we're talking about that changes hands. What do you want the government to do?
Well, we're working with them in a lot of ways, but we're trying to get a lot of different legislation.
Operation Renewed Hope?
Yeah, that's one of the big ones that we're working on, and that's specifically for victim identification. It's a database, which is a database at Interpol. They're able to see well over 50,000 boys and girls that they can see their rape and abuse images. You can look at their crime scene videos, but you have yet to identify those boys and girls. So at C3, the Cyber Crime Center, right now there's only 7 victim identification specialists that are there, that every day they're going through this material, trying to identify these boys and girls. Could you imagine if there were 7 of you and your goal was you had to get to over 50,000 boys and girls and being able to identify them? And so a big part of this is we're going to push that from 7 to 200 victim identification specialists that every day are identifying these boys and girls, and then after we're able to identify them, then we can try to safeguard them and bring them into a place where they can get the true care that they need. But it's a city of boys and girls that have yet to be identified, and many of them are continuing to get abused and raped over and over again, and law enforcement can watch that rape video but have yet to identify them, and that is why this Renewed Hope Act is so important.
Where does it stand?
In the process. It's a slow
Yeah,
process.
look, I see a look.
Yeah.
It just
Some things that we want to make urgent sometimes don't always feel urgent to everybody, and so we're trying to. Every one of these is urgent to us because it's not just another video. It's another boy or girl that are suffering on the other end of that lens that we can't wait.
So part of your ability to create positive change and have this platform started with your athletic success, or at least that played a role in it. And I want to take you back to college. You go over the course of a year from being a backup to winning the Heisman. Ever have a period of your life that changed more than that?
Oh, that's a good question. Definitely been some ups and downs in short periods, that's for sure. But I think one of the things that was really helpful my freshman year was, even though I was a backup, that I got a lot of really significant, meaningful playing downs. Just one to handle big moments and pressure. And so then when you kind of take over, you're like, I've already been in a lot of really big situations in a lot of the biggest games. And so I think it really helped from a belief, I can do this. I've been in some of these situations, and I think that really helped, where it didn't feel like, oh, this is overwhelming. Even though there's those nerves and that pressure and that overwhelming. And I mean that not just in the sense of from the media, just the sense of how much also you care about it, right? For me, being at Florida wasn't just a college experience. It was my parents' first date was a Florida-Georgia game. My grandfather and my mom's side's dream was to see Florida win an SEC championship game. He passed away before that could happen.
Wait, and to think you almost didn't go to Florida.
That's true.
What was that? Like 20, 30 minutes before you're going to make the announcement?
No, at the last second. Closer than that. Yeah, closer than that. And
because it was between Florida and Alabama.
Yeah. And
talk to both
but
coaches.
I really did try to truly make not what was best for the fan that I was, but for the player and young man that I was, which is really hard to kind of compartmentalize that too. And my parents did a great job of just not swaying me and just letting it be my decision. And
Okay, take me to those final moments before you announced it and what's going through your head.
Well, I've been agonizing about it for several days and trying to figure it out, narrowing it down. And I narrowed it down to Florida and Alabama, and I loved both schools. And it was literally came down to the last second. And even when I said University of Florida, there was still a part of me that regretted it. I didn't know if I made the best decision. And when we got in the car afterwards, I asked my mom for a trash bag because I think I'm going to throw up. I was just so close with so many of the players and staff at Alabama, and I think it's really hard that you feel like you regret it because you also hurt people, the disappointment in that, and I carried some of that weight. It wasn't that I didn't love Florida, it's just, man, to hurt people is hard. And I'm not good at sometimes having some of those hard conversations.
No?
No, I'm a people pleaser by nature, and that makes it difficult. And I honestly think just because of being a people pleaser, it's you want to please people, you want to make people happy, and sometimes it makes it even harder. And I think sometimes I miss the mark because
How so?
Because I don't want to have sometimes a confrontational conversation, and maybe it was needed. Maybe that would have been better. I don't believe that niceness is the same as kindness.
Is there an example with regards to your athletic career where you feel like it would have made a difference?
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a lot of examples of just whether it's a conversation that I'd have up front with a coach or a teammate, or maybe you handle something, or maybe they give you feedback and I should have responded one way, but I just said, yeah, that's no problem, when I really could have said, well, but I'm questioning this, I'm trying to figure, and
Is there one most notable example of that comes to mind? You're like, how much do I reveal here?
No, I just, there's not one that really comes to mind of a specific story, but that's something my whole life and to this day, I have to work on every day.
But by the way, speaking of college, you ever think about if the NIL existed when you were playing?
Not really.
Oh, come on.
People mention that, but it's just, I beyond loved my time there, and I wouldn't trade it my teammates, the friends, the family. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
And not only did you have a great time there, you went back for your senior year, you graduated, did everything right. Here's a tough one for you. Aaron Hernandez, what was he like back then?
He was a teammate that was extremely competitive, that I think had a different side than a lot of how the media just portrays it. And it's obviously a
How so?
I think just trying to sensationalize something isn't always, doesn't make it accurate or good. And I think there's been too much of that that's been sensationalized rather than just kind of tell the root of the story.
What do you think gets lost in the media coverage of him?
I think telling the other, some of the other side of what he came through and what he worked through, is working on, and it's just in every area,
Which was
hard.
what for him? Because to your point, what you see in media is just headlines, right?
Yeah, and I think it's just sad for a whole lot of people. It's why it's hard for me to even answer your questions, because I don't want to be a part of just talking about it. I don't want to. It's not really my place, and I don't, want to, because there's, still family that's, and so many people are affected in other ways, and it's hard to know what to say, when to say, why to say it, because it affects so many people, and it's hard. It's hard, for a lot of people, for victims, for his family, for so many people. It's I just, try to be tender to all of that.
Okay, so I guess my only other question, without getting into specifics, and I know you had exposure to an incident with him at the swamp even back in the day, but when you see the news of just what happened with him, like, just take me through what you go through in your head.
I think every bit of it's just sad and heartbreaking, and I also think that all of us need to remember that we need to be in good community, good fellowship, that we need to be in relationships with people that can love us and care for us. I think it should also be something that convicts us that if we aren't careful, we can all go down different roads, and we're never immune from, going down a road that isn't a good one for us to go down. And I think it should be a challenge to all of us. Like, man, I know that I so quickly can get full of a whole bunch of bad things and miss the mark and lose perspective, and we're not immune from those things. And I hope we look at some of them and we learn from different situations that have gone before us, so we don't sometimes step into some of them. Because you know how many times I could have learned, but I still did it because I was just stubborn or proud, or and I wouldn't learn or wouldn't grow before it got to a place where I should have, and it hurt too much to scar me, and then I learned from the scar.
Why is it so important to you to not say anything negative about him?
Why would it be important to me to? What does that help? He's got family, the victims have families. Who am I to think I can speak into that? Like, I don't want to, I fight against that type of pride and arrogance, and I don't want to have it. And I also cared very, very much for him and his family, and it hurts every bit of it hurts. And so I don't want to join that side of just jumping on and saying stuff. It's not my heart, and I don't think it's wise, and I don't think it's helpful.
I want to completely shift gears in talking about the NFL, and we can, start with a team you both played for, the Patriots. I heard this story and was kind of floored by it. You, to your credit, rightly get offered $1 million endorsement deal for a day of work. Take me to that conversation you had with Bill Belichick.
Yeah, it just was an awesome opportunity from a really good company that stood for really amazing things, and they really wanted me to be a part of it. It was during an off day. And
Not a bad deal, right?
No, no. But I was asked to, by him when I joined the team, to do my best of going under the radar and not bringing too much attention. I said, yes, sir, I'll do my best. And I mean, he was just always so honest and forthright and honestly really kind in a lot of areas to me. And we had a great relationship since I was in college. Him and Coach Meyer were close, and there's been a lot of times I got to know him early on in college. And so I called him and said, hey, this is the opportunity. And he was just very straightforward, like he always is, but kind about it. He said to me, I'd really appreciate it if you turned it down. And
what was your contract with the Patriots at the time?
I don't think it was like even a contract. I'm just trying to make the team.
Right.
And I turned it down. Maybe I should have said yes because I got cut a few days later. But that day of service would have been twice as much as I would have made if I would have made the team for the entire season.
Right.
But I think, a few times how I've used the story and talking with people is that, man, if I would be willing to do that, to just try to give myself a 1% of 1% of 1% greater chance to make a team, right, as a backup, then what should I be willing to do for the things that really matter to me? Like if I would do that to make a team, would I have done that for the things that I would say matter more? Okay,
now was that a situation though, when talking to Coach, where you should have actually stood up for yourself and been like,
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I think every situation just takes discernment and figuring out, and I don't know. It's a good question.
So you had, as you said, no job, no car, no home after the Patriots cut you. What was your lowest point during that period?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it would have been then or it would have been the year before after the Jets season. Both of those were pretty low points.
How so?
I think just disappointment. Just didn't go the way that we wanted it. Also the feeling of I wish I would have handled certain things differently.
In what way?
I think from even certain things to some of when I landed there in New York, press conference I did, I wished I wouldn't have done some of that. I wish I would have just probably handled a few things differently. And then I think, but obviously it just wasn't we don't win, and this is just a disappointing season. And I think there was not just regret of the outcome, but I just wish I would have handled some things differently.
What about when Urban cut you?
That was very disappointing. I don't necessarily even really blame him.
Give color to the disappointment, if you don't mind.
I think more of the disappointment was actually a pride issue, because I got to play one preseason game and it didn't go the way that I wanted, and I think I got cut the next day or the day after that. I think it was maybe a day or two after my birthday too, something like that. And when Coach Meyer and Trent Baalke, the GM, handled it so kindly and nicely when they let me go. But I think what stung was the thought that is this my last go round? Is this how I'll be remembered? Because if you turn on any TV, it was all of my worst plays being repeated over and over and over again on probably every sports dog channel. And it was that fighting of the pride, that it was about my ego. And Demi was doing such a good job of encouraging me in the middle of it, but I was still fighting it because it was a lot of my ego that I was fighting. And right about that time is when our military evacuated Afghanistan, and we had team members that were serving there, and then I got a chance to fly to a location in the Middle East, and the location that we landed and we were serving, there were people fighting for their lives that were sick, that were stamped, that were hurt, that were, certain people were bleeding out. It was a really chaotic, crisis-filled situation that we got to serve, and after a little while we got to leave from that country and fly to another one. And it's the first one since being cut a few days earlier that I said, God, thank you. I could really say that and mean it. God, thank you. Thank you for letting me get cut. Because if I wouldn't have been playing for the Jaguars and then I wouldn't have got cut at this time, I wouldn't have actually been here to be reminded of what I was called to do. You see, what I view was a setback was really a setup, because I would have had something planned and doing something and, you know, playing baseball or have TV or something else, then I wouldn't have been able to just fly to the Middle East to go serve. And it was such a reminder to me, in a disappointing moment, in a low moment, when you're thinking, man, is my sports career over? Is this it? Is this how I'll be remembered? All of my worst, all of my worst, all of my worst. It's not like there was anything that was remotely close to a peak. It was like low points. But I'm so grateful God wasn't like, I know you feel like this, but I use this. And I'm reminding you, like, that you're called for something that's different. It's more important than a game. And that was so meaningful, and I'm so grateful for it.
Backing up momentarily, you're with the Broncos. You have as good of a season as you could hope for in your first season starting. And then I think they give you the ability to get traded to kind of wherever you want. The Jags owner has said he offered more money and a higher draft pick. What was the thinking at the time in your mind? Why not to come home?
Well, I would have loved it, but we were also told that besides the ownership, that nobody wanted me here. And so it makes it really hard when the ownership wants you, but the staff doesn't.
How do you think through that at the time?
I don't know. That's hard. It's obviously a dream come true. I would love it. I mean, are you kidding me? I loved Jacksonville. I loved it. But you also, I think most people would get this, it's important to go to a place you think you're wanted, right? That's right. Just changes so much.
Well, and the reports about it at the time weren't that. It was that, you know, they were interested, and for whatever reason you know, didn't come. Obviously missing a key part of the color to the story.
Well, because it's not really my place to even, like, you know, just bring that up. It's not about, you know.
You think you should have gotten another starting opportunity?
I think I should have done better with the opportunities that I had.
Do you?
Yeah, I think I just could have handled it better. I mean, I got an opportunity with the Jets and should have performed better. With the Patriots, should have performed better. Eagles should have performed better.
What would you have done differently?
That would get into certain types of training and focus and just all of it. But
you think so? I mean, didn't you were busting your, you know what?
Yeah, I mean, I try to work hard, but obviously there's a lot of things I wish I would have just done better, improved on. I don't want to make it about I should have got another shot. No, I should have made more with my shot. There's a big difference.
What's the takeaway from those experiences?
I think
now?
everyone is different. Everyone was learning. Everyone, I still have special relationships. Everyone, I still root for so many of the people. I would say there's something that I learned from every one of those stops, and stuff that I wish I would have done different at every one of those stops. And a lot of the things that I learned were also because of some of the things that I wish I would have done different.
How do you view the time you spent in baseball?
I loved it. I enjoyed every bit of it. Maybe the game slightly more than the bus rides, but it was just an awesome process. Even in the setbacks and the injuries and somehow frustrating and disappointing some of those were, I loved it. I think there really is something special about being able to look back and say, okay, I have a lot of regrets about a lot of things, but I don't have many about this because I really pursued it hard.
It ticked me off when I read this quote, when I was preparing for this, because the Mets GM had come out, this is forever ago now, and was talking about, signing you, and he's like, it's part talent and then part because of Barnum and Bailey. And I'm like, here this guy is sacrificing kind of a lot to pursue this, and I don't know. I'm sure you saw that back then.
I don't know that I did.
Oh, you
but,
did. Okay.
I tell you, I had such a good relationship with everyone at the Mets. I still feel like I do. I loved it. They just treated me so first class, and so many teammates and coaches. I do not have anything but praise about my time with them.
And you said before you made the decision to go all in on football, one of the hardest decisions I ever made was choosing football over baseball.
It was really hard.
Really?
Yeah. I loved baseball, loved it. And it was really hard to figure out because I either had to I didn't have to, but I was either going to go to college early and start in January and go play football, or play baseball that spring and go pro for baseball out of high school. And that was agonizing. And I feel like my mom especially was pretty influential in that.
How so?
Not forceful at all, but just sharing how important college education was to her too. And so that, and I think probably the biggest thing was if I look back and I said, I don't get to experience one, which one am I going to look back and say, I wonder what that would have been like the most? And that was never playing in the swamp and all those SEC stadiums. And so it's kind of the way I tried to look at it a little bit. And I've tried to view some things in my life. Which one, if I look back, would I regret the least?
So it's funny, I want to ask you about your decision-making process and broadcasting in the just remaining moments we have with you. I wanted to start with broadcasting, though. What do you enjoy about it?
I love being part of the game. I love the passion. I love the contagious atmosphere. I love that we get to be on campuses. It's been a part of my life. I really, from my first memories, I have loved all football, but especially college football. The passion, the pageantry, the traditions, the rivalries. I've always loved it. I've been so passionate about it. It feels like if you cut me open, hopefully there's a few good qualities, but one of the first thing I think is going to bleed out after hopefully a love for people and for the Lord would be, man, I love the game. I love the passion and pageantry. It's just very, very near and dear to my heart. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's just been such a part of my life for so long.
What interests you in business?
A lot, but especially business for ministry, using it being able, like when we talk about the fight against trafficking, and you talk about, hey, what are all the areas where it's not just enough to fight it in the nonprofit space or in the safeguarding in our safe homes, or it has to be fought in the business sector, it has to be fought in the technology sector, it has to be fought with funds, it has to be fought in so many areas, because it's infiltrating all of these areas, and we have to be able to fight back. So that's like an area that we're heavily invested with Eagle Freedom Fund in building up technology companies that are fighting to either safeguard or care for or fight against these evils that are taking place. Because if they're using technology to do it, we have to also be able to fight back with technology against it as well. And that's just one example of a lot.
You're on the boards of what companies?
Not many, but I'm a GP in that, and I very grateful. We're so grateful for that. I sit on the board at TTF, and I'm very passionate about that. It's one of the greatest callings I feel like in my life, but not many other boards, only a couple.
Tell about the sports teams you're part of.
Yeah, well, I love, I've just been able to see how cool sports can impact a community, and so get to be part of a couple ECHL hockey teams, and Tahoe, and coming soon in Augusta, and I love that. Also Sporting Jacks here in Jacksonville. I really have such a love for so many sports. But if I'm being totally honest, I love even more of what those sports can do. The role models in communities, the way it rallies people together, the way that it gives family something to do around meals or holidays or care for or get dressed up for. It can do so much in your community to bring people that might not talk to communicate, to do special things. And I love it.
What do you see as the business opportunity there?
Oh, I think that some of these minor league teams can be a really special, a good business. They bring in good partners and good people that really care about it, and you do things a certain way. Hopefully we can do good and for people, and also, have a return on investment with it as well.
Best financial decision you ever made?
That's a good question. It's probably the first time anyone's ever asked me that. I can tell you that one of the worst investments I ever made, I got a call and we invested in a company, and it was a disaster, and it was big loss, and it was a very interesting few moments, because I got a call about it, and then I got a call 2 minutes later from our team where we just got the chance to safeguard out of a terrible situation 26 kids. You just had the biggest loss ever in one investment or one day or one event, and such an impactful. And I was so convicted about which one am I going to care about more. And I really hope it was those 26 precious lives.
How about best financial advice you ever received?
To invest in things that are going to last forever. And then another more practical piece of advice that was a good piece of advice was to, you only have so much time, so how can you invest in things that there's an ROI when you're asleep? And it was said to me by a very successful businessman, but it impacted me in a different way. I thought, he's right. You only have so much time, so many days. But then I actually took that to heart for TTF. How can we have strategies that are multiplying even when we aren't physically there?
Yep.
And so it's really to have that same mindset that he was talking about for business, but have it for people, the multiplication factor.
Then lastly, on the decision-making front, explain what you were talking about a moment ago about making decisions from the standpoint of what you think you will least regret?
I think a lot of times when you chase dreams in life, you have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Both hurt, but the pain of discipline feels a lot better very quickly. When you finish a workout, during that workout, it sucked for a little bit, but right afterwards, man, it feels good, you know, and you're grateful that you pushed yourself. And then there's a recovery phase and you improve from it. The pain of regret lasts a whole lot longer. It feels a whole lot worse. And too many things in life that I regret. And so I don't want to try to think about things in life that, okay, if I make this decision, I'm going to regret this the least. If I pursue this, I'm going to regret this the least. Ultimately, to have things that are more important, things of significance and meaning and purpose.
And then lastly, as the columnist once pointed out, you have a level of optimism that borders on irrationality. The genesis of that is what?
I don't know if I'm optimistic or I don't believe that when I say some of these things about humanity and people, that's optimism, that's a belief. That's a belief in every life. That's a belief in who our Creator is and how He created us and what He's created us for. I think optimism is you're saying, I'm optimistic things will turn out a certain way. I don't know about that, but I totally want to believe in the worth of who you are and the worth of who God created you to be and the value in which you have and the meaning and the significance. And I hope I see you that way, and therefore I hope I treat you that way. That's very different than I'm optimistic. No, hopefully it's a conviction of a deeply held set of beliefs versus just turning out a certain way.
Thanks for doing this.
Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Graham. I appreciate it, man.